Frozen. Oh boy, I remember the hype around this movie was huge. All the children, girls were singing the songs, dancing, dressing like the characters, and talking about Olaf and all that stuff. And I did not see this movie until maybe 10 years later. 10 years later, that's when I seen it. For the hype, I would say yes, it deserved it because everyone was talking about it during that time. Everyone was dressing up as these characters. But once I seen the movie, I'm like, this is it? That's it? Like, this is what these children were hyped up for? It was just a dark, gloomy, depressed movie. And the children were hyped up for this. And the songs are awful. The sings, it was awful. And Disney songs in general, most of the Disney songs in general are awful. They're awful, man. There's just no melody. It's just annoying. Awful. So does this movie deserve the billions? No. Barbie, I've yet to see this movie, but why is she there? Shouldn't this be the other girl? But anyways, didn't see this movie, don't plan on seeing it. Part of me wants to see it just because of the hype. So yes, for the hype, I'll say yes, deserves the billions. Because if I want to see, if I'm, interested or at least thinking about watching this movie, then yes, that means the hype is real. So for the hype, yes, deserves the billions. But from what I've seen in the trailers and clips, it doesn't look good. It looks cheap. It doesn't look like it's a movie made for children. It looks like this is just for like teenagers, like older adult teenagers. So just based on the trailers and clips, is this movie worth a billion? Nope. For the hype, I'll say yes. Titanic, man. Oh, this was 1997. This was before, social media. I remember watching this movie back in school, and I remember watching it, and I was a child and realizing so many people died. I couldn't even walk. I could barely even walk after. First time seeing it, this movie was devastating. After a while, you kind of laugh at some scenes and you kind of learn about the Titanic. For the hype, I'll say yes. It was without social media, it was decently big. It was decently hyped up. Again, there was no social media, no internet. Well, there was internet, but it wasn't as what it is today. As a movie, is this worth a billions? I'll say yes. Even though most of this movie is made up. One thing I wish they did was probably not just only focus on this couple. You could have focused on other character story arcs as well. They didn't do that. It was just it was basically just a love story with the sinking of the Titanic. Hype wise, yes, a billion. Movie wise, I'll say yes as a billion. The Dark Knight Rises, again, this movie was awful, very, very boring, too realistic and dull for the hype. The hype is just overrated. I'll say no. It was just meh. As a movie, it was just boring. So this movie is not worth a billion. And Avengers Infinity War. This movie was way better than Endgame. It was the best. It was the best movie in the MCU by far. Yeah, like it was just so good from start to finish. being able to focus on multiple stories, multiple characters. The flow was up and down, the hype, the emotion, the God. This is what it was all about. 10 years of grinding of the MCU, of Thor's, the Captain America's, Iron Man's, Guardians, etc., etc. Infinity War was a masterpiece of a movie. Does it have some flaws? Probably. But I thought it was perfect. A perfect ending, a perfect beginning. Just absolute awesome movie. Based on its hype, yes, it is worth the billions. Because this is what it was for. So this is what the MCU was for. After Avengers 1, this is what it was for, man. And as a movie, it was perfect. Obviously, there's things they could have done better, but this movie was just perfect. So yes, this movie is worth the billions. Rogue One, I have not seen this movie. Did hear some bad things about it. I think just wasn't interested in seeing it just after the other two that I saw. Just wasn't too interested in all this. Is this movie worth the hype? I'll say no. Is this movie good as a movie? I really don't know. But overall, I'll say no, this movie's not worth $1 billion. Avatar, oh gosh. I remember the hype about this movie. And finally I saw it and I was like, this is it? Like, this is the best they can do? This is the best they can do? This movie was boring. It was boring. Like, I understood what was going on, but it was just so boring. I was not interested. For the hype, it was an overrated hype. The hype was overrated. Overrated for this junk. When I saw it, it was boring. So as a movie, not worth the billions. For its overrated hype, it is not worth the billions. The Furious 7. I've only seen the first two, and I thought they were okay. After that, I've had no interest of seeing any of them. I'm pretty sure. I pretty know what's going to happen. It's just them racing cars and fighting crime and being cliche. For the hype, after 7 of these movies, nope, not worth it. For as a movie, in my opinion, I'd probably say no, still not worth it. Even though I haven't seen it, but I pretty get what's going on in these movies. Kind of went over Harry Potter. At the beginning, I've only seen the first one. I've only seen parts of the first one. Wasn't really interested. If I was interested, I would have had I would have watched this movie already. I have had no interest in doing so. For the hype, I'll say yes. This movie's worth the billions because during this time, this was way before the social media age or the Facebooks, the YouTubes. There was hype. Like, there was hype. You felt the hype. You heard the hype. As a movie per se, from what I've seen, is it worth the billions? I'll say no. It just looked like a dark, gloomy meh of a movie. Captain Marvel. Again, for the hype, I'll say sort of. From what I've heard, Marvel kind of tricked them, linking up. I think it was Infinity War with this movie, and they really had nothing to do with it. But that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to market. They're supposed to try to get the asses in the seats. So I'm not gonna fault them on that. I think, nerds and fans watching these trailers and reading the information about a movie, you should be able to make your best judgment of if this movie is going to be good or not. And, you just got to use your instincts. 'Cause some movies just don't look good. Some movies look the best. And you just got to make that judgment. Like, do you want to be buffooned or tricked? Overall, meh of a movie. yeah, just not an interesting movie. It did have potential, but meh of a movie. I'm not gonna jump on the Brie Larson hater bandwagon. I'm not interested in that. What I'm interested in is the actual story and the things they present, and it failed to engage me. So for the hype, I'll say not worth the billions, and for as a movie, not worth the billions. Iron Man 3 was crap. It was crap. It was crap. It was the first movie that I missed in theaters. I've seen Thor. Okay, it was the first MCU movie I missed in theaters. During the beginning of the whole MCU, I've seen Thor, Captain America, Avengers, and after that, I seen Dark World and Cap 2 and etc. But somehow I skipped Iron Man 3. I guess because what I seen on the trailers, it just didn't look interesting. Like, I kind of knew this movie was not interesting. And I was right. Seeing it on DVD months after, it wasn't an interesting movie. And like I said, just because you make billions of dollars doesn't mean you're a good movie. This movie made billions of dollars and no one even talks about it. It's sitting at a 79%. No one talks about Iron Man 3. Even as one of the worst movies, no one talks about it. Even though it made $1 billion, no one mentions it. Because no one cares about this movie. Because it was that bad of a movie. I won't say bad, but it just wasn't good. As for the hype, after Avengers 1, I'll say yes. Because it kind of made sense. People were all hyped up about it. People felt good about it. And they want to see what's going to happen next. And they come to this, and it's like, what is this? This is crap. So for the hype, yes. But as a movie, not worth the billions. Excuse me. Oh, here we go. Deadpool and Wolverine. The first two Deadpool movies were okay. They were like goodish, okay-ish. You know, like they're tolerable, but they weren't like movies that I put as great, as something that I would rush to see again. Deadpool and Wolverine comes along, and the MCU goes on a little bit of a hiatus. I haven't seen an MCU movie since November. You'd think that these people would improve, they would change, upgrade, not make the same mistakes that they did in the past. And watching this movie, they continue to make the same mistakes. Like, majority of this movie is just Wolverine and Deadpool fighting, arguing and fighting. That's it. They spent maybe hour and a half fighting, arguing and fighting. That's all what happens in this movie. That's all what happens. Then you have these other short little scenes and things that'll happen, but they're meaningless. I mean, the cameos of Blade and the other guys were fine. Seeing all these old actors and characters, they were fine. The villain was wasted. The villain was wasted. No development whatsoever. Just a trash, overrated junk of a movie. And this has 78%. This is lower than Iron Man right now. But just because you make $1 billion doesn't mean you're a good movie. This movie is not a good movie. And in terms of theater, competition, like, that's it. MCU is like the only franchise that is relevant in theaters. There's no competition. There's no other series, no other franchise that can compete with MCU. Even though MCU is on a slump, even though they've been putting out really horrible movies lately, no one still can compete with MCU. Now, they did not have a movie since November of last year. And people want to go back to the theaters. They want to see a movie. They want to see a superhero movie. Wolverine is back, or whatever, the Jackman guy is back, Deadpool is back. They're meshing together the MCU cameos and all of these things, so it makes sense that this movie would get $1 billion. People want to get entertained, and there's really nothing in the theaters to get entertained about, except for an MCU movie. And if that MCU movie has cameos and using other old actors and characters, of course it's going to get $1 billion. But the movie is trash. It is trash. I think Deadpool 1 is probably the best, then Deadpool 2, then this trash of a movie. Is this movie worth the billions? For the hype? No. For the cameos? No. As a movie per se? No. I think as for like a long wait, yes, this movie is worth the billions. That long wait, nothing else is coming out, yes, this movie is worth that money. But otherwise, no, this movie is not worth that. Frozen 2, I've yet to see this one. It may be another 10 years until I do. Maybe I did see it. Did I see it? I don't think I saw it. No, I didn't. But after the lackluster first one, I'm not really interested. For the hype, I would say yes. It's been a while since we've seen Frozen back. But as a movie, as a series, I would say it's very overrated. So no. Avatar. And you notice a lot of these movies, these new movies, have a low percentage. A lot of the older ones from like the 90s, early 2000s, they're still like in the 90s. But these new ones are like are in the 70s now. This still made $1 billion. Avatar made $1 billion. I haven't seen this one, but based on the last one I've seen, I'm not interested. For the overrated hype, yes, this is worth the $1 billion. But as a movie, as a story, and as a movie per se, no, it's not worth it. This movie is boring. Avengers: Age of Ultron. I thought this movie was a step up. It was a step up compared to the first Avengers in terms of the visuals, the effects, the chemistry between the characters and actors. Very big of a step up. But same time, I don't know. Same time, I would say visually, this movie is better than Avengers 1. In terms of upgrades and things like that, it is better. But as an overall movie, I'll say Avengers 1 is still better than this movie. For the hype after Avengers 1 and all the other stuff in between, was this movie worth it? Of course. Here's the second time these guys get to mesh together, where they're introducing Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch. So yes, I think the hype for the billions is worth it. But as a movie per se, is this movie worth the billions? I'm gonna say yes. It's the Avengers. Beauty and the Beast, good movie. This is probably one of the best live action adaptions. It's like one of the best live action adaptions. For the hype, there wasn't much hype around this movie after it came out or before it came out. Not much hype about it. Maybe like a little bit. But for the hype, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say so, but it's like one of the first like live action adaptions. But like for being one of the first in current times, I would say yes, it was worth it. But for the hype, no. But as a movie, is this movie worth $1 billion? I'm going to say no. Maybe 800 million. But no, a good movie. I liked it, just not worth the billions. Oh, Jurassic World, just wasn't interested in this movie. Again, it's based off the Jurassic World or Jurassic Park movie. Those movies were way better than this. It was way better. Seeing this one, had no interest seeing the other ones. So yeah, for the hype, not worth it. As a movie, not worth a billion. Joker. It was good to actually get an origin story of the Joker finally. Because I heard in the comics there's really not much about him as a character. All they know that is he's a Joker and that's it. So I think it's kind of good to get that backstory about him. For the hype, is this movie worth it? I'll say no. As a movie, is this movie worth a billion? I'll say no. It's a little bit overrated. I know it won a few Oscars and whatnot, or whatever they're called. I'll say it's not worth it. And this thing's sitting at a 69. So again, just because you get $1 billion doesn't mean you're a good movie. I'm not too into the Fast and Furious movies. I haven't seen this one. Only seen the first two. But overall, I'll say no. It's not worth it. Aquaman. It was okay of a movie. It wasn't bad. It was okay. Visually, it was okay. Everything was just okay. The characters, actors, they were only okay. It was like they weren't even trying that hard, in my opinion. For the hype, no. As a movie, this movie is not worth $1 billion. I mean, its second one didn't do too well. The Hobbit. I think it's based on like the Lord of the Rings. It's based on the Lord of the Rings? I don't know. I think so. Again, just like the Lord of the Rings, it's overrated. I'm not interested in seeing this, so not worth it. Super Mario Bros. Good movie. I'll say it's a good movie. First time doing this movie on a scale like this after a long time. For the hype, for Nintendo fanboys and gamers, this movie is worth $1 billion, but as a movie per se, is this movie worth it? I would say maybe 900 million. Like, that's it. It's worth like 900 million. Despicable Me is not really interested in the Minions movies. I know I've seen maybe a couple of them. They're a little bit overrated in my opinion. For the hype, not really worth the billions. As a movie, it's not worth it either. Aladdin, I've yet to see Aladdin yet, but I've sort of seen it like when you're sitting in like these furniture stores or electronic stores. You see them on the TV. I've seen clips. I've heard songs. The songs are crap like always. Visually, the movie looks fine. I've just never been interested in seeing this movie. I've had zero interest in watching this movie. I'm gonna do part 3 for Asgard.